What's up, guys? Welcome back to Digital Dive-In, your proper gaming talk show where we dive into the latest and hottest topics in gaming every single week.
Yep.
We're your hosts, Sandsology and JayDubbs.
What up, fam?
There we go.
As you see, we're wearing some dapper summer outfits. He's got his, teal blue.
It's blue. It's like
I've got my yellow and orange.
we're looking dapper as hell, trying to pull on our California vibes because we are sort of kind of talking about Hollywood and the SAG-AFTRA strikes, but also going to be talking about, how that would look like in the AAA gaming sphere. Not just AAA, it could be, the gaming sphere in general. But if you've been living under a rock for the past, 2 months basically now, I guess. God, it's been going on for a while. Actually, I guess it's only been going for a month, but still. The SAG-AFTRA strikes, weird acronyms. They're the Writers Guild and the Actors Guild in Hollywood going on strike, taking the picket lines because they are asking for, better job security, better pay, drawing attention to disparities in film and the television industry. There's a lot that was going on, especially with the rise of AI. Like, for example, the actors specifically, a lot of new actors and background actors, Hollywood, or not in Hollywood, but a lot of producers and studio directors were like, hey, so we're just going to scan your likeness and we're probably going to use you in other projects in the background. We're not going to pay you, but we're just letting you know. That's fucked. That is just straight up fucked. That is not okay. So yeah, after that came out, actors like, you're going to do what to who? Huh? Nah, fam. Now you're not getting any more movies. So both them and the Writers Guild went on strike. Actors went on a little bit later, but yeah. It's not great to be a creative right now because all the big money bags really just want to take advantage of you. And that's been happening a lot over the past years in the gaming industry. It's only recently gotten ever so slightly better, but it still sucks.
I mean, absolutely. And it really brings to question, how do you really make sure that something you create stays truly yours, and you have to kind of look at it from both sides. I mean, kind of straight to the point, I think a union in the gaming industry would be messy just because, you're talking about 3D technology, you're talking about writers. Are you talking about, sorry, just to clarify, you're talking about actors, or are you talking about...
I'm talking about everything in the gaming sphere. I mean, if you look at Hollywood, right, they have unions for actors, writers, producers. There's a union for just about everything because, it just helps keep everything as a standard. And when you're talking about film, that's very, very important for everything to have a standard to hit to make a movie or a TV show for that matter. So with gaming, you guys might remember we talked about this back in May-ish. Raven software workers won their union vote way back in May 2022, and they're being represented by CWA, but now they actually have the Game Workers Alliance as their union, which is super cool. And if you want to watch that video where we talked about that, I'll link to it in the description below so you guys can check that one out. We're not going to get too much into that, but yeah, it's really, really important. I think it's really important. I mean, it might be messy because there is a little bit more that goes into making a game than there is to make a movie. I mean, a lot of it crosses over, especially when you talk about voice actors, writers, producers. Mm-hmm. But then you also have, VFX artists, which have become more prevalent in movies nowadays too. There's just so much that goes deep and deep and deep and deep and deep when it comes to making a game. So,
right,
you have to really think about okay, what is this union for? Is this union only for voice actors? Is it only for writers? Is it for game artists? Coders, what? Like, what does this entail? Would there be unions for all of those people? Or, like, you have to think about that because there's a lot. Because right now, for Hollywood, it's just the writers and the actors are the ones that are really in the limelight right now.
And that's really a question of, exactly how far do you want this to go? Like, are we just talking developers and what, like facial actors? And the thing is, like, a publisher can always just throw out the developer and just get a new developer.
Exactly.
So that's another thing. Like, gaming is just as vicious as Hollywood.
Yeah, seriously.
Everybody is trying to be that person working on the next big game that's going to help out their career or boost them up. When you're not looking at AAA, you're looking at everybody trying to fight for a position just to get noticed. And, you have these companies that are asking for these outrageous amounts of money just to mark their 15-second trailer or, 1-minute trailer, like really exploiting like the developers. So like where does it start? Where does it end? Like, it's really hard to say, So, I mean, and at the point where the publisher gets to a point where they feel fed up, they can just find a more starving artist or a more starving company that'd be willing to work with them. Like,
pretty much,
it could be just as easy as that. So, then as a whole, you'll have a lower quality of games, and that's just going to make the whole industry as a point suffer. Or like you have companies that are trying to work with, or you have the publisher that won't hire a new team because they realize the value. And then they'll just stick out them being on strike for however long. All games stop production.
Well, that's what
games like.
That's what Hollywood literally did.
Either way,
that's what Hollywood literally did. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna stick this out until these writers and actors start to lose their homes, and then they're gonna start crawling back to us." I'm like, that is such a toxic mindset. Oh my god! And that was a public ass statement. I'm like, what the hell? Like, now gaming itself has been a toxic environment for a very long time. I mean, it wasn't that long ago when we were seeing articles about. That's still a toxic environment.
I mean, I would argue always, even because now you're hearing stories of documentaries of all these time crunches for these.
Oh well, yeah, that's all I was going to talk about. It was not long ago when we were seeing articles and reports come out that these devs were like crunched for like almost 2 months, where they were working like insane hours, pulling crazy shifts just to get this game pushed out, only to have the game have even more issues as well, because you have exhausted, stressed out workers trying to code, build, write, voice lines, all that shit, and mesh everything together. And it's like, guys, and it's gotten a little bit better, right? In the past like 2 years, even before next gen consoles came out, it's gotten a little bit better where devs are becoming a little bit more comfortable delaying games. Gamers are becoming a little bit more responsive and forgiving for games that are getting delayed, because they realize, okay, we don't want a game that's unfinished. We don't want a game that's broken or that just performs badly. And devs are being like, okay, we can actually afford to delay this game as long as we announce it significantly ahead of time, not just like, a month before it's supposed to come out. So when that happens, it's kind of like, okay, really, what is like a month really going to do? But like when they announce it like 6 months ahead of time, it's like, okay, that's fine, right? They announce it, it's going to get delayed like, anywhere from 2 months to even 6 months, or it gets delayed indefinitely if it's in production hell. But devs are just becoming more aware of that. They're becoming more responsive and comfortable to delay a game. And like I said, gamers are just becoming a little bit more forgiving. So that's good, but it's still not all daisies and roses, Like, you still see a lot of reports about this shit.
I mean, what happened, because games have been getting delayed since the beginning of video games. And but gamers used to give these devs so much shit when a game got delayed. Like, ungodly amounts of shit. I mean, even when it was like back in 2004 and 2003, when like stuff like Doom 3 and was getting delayed, like it was just like, all right, well, it just made it all the more hype. And then when it came out, yeah, we picked it up, and that was that. Like it delayed. Like
I'm just saying, I think nowadays it's beginning.
People aren't like people were upset, but they weren't like so outrageously upset. They were like, oh my fucking god, I want to fucking murder somebody. Like it was just like, oh man, that sucks. Like I hate that, but like. Go on with my fucking day. Like, I'll play something else until the fucking games that comes out.
I mean, like, we've seen so many instances of games being rushed to release because they didn't want that stigma of delaying the game. I mean, so we've all lived through a really bad release at some point or another, you know? Like, we've all seen those games. It's not new. And it was because the devs didn't want to delay it because either it was too close to release or they missed that, like, you know, nice time to announce a delayed game. So, for whatever reason, I mean, there's so much behind the scenes that even we don't know about because we're not really in the industry ourselves. We're looking at it from a consumer standpoint, so we only know so much. Sure. But, regardless, I 100% think that like writers and coders and developers themselves in general should be treated a hell of a lot better than they're being treated now. I mean, we're still getting, you know, reports of like people getting death threats for games either releasing badly or not being what they wanted or whatever, right? And that's from a consumer standpoint, but from like, you know, a developer standpoint, like either whether it's, you know, from a parent company that now owns another company. I'm looking at you, EA. EA treats their devs like absolute garbage, and it's not right. And fuck EA, honestly. But yeah, no, there's a lot of bullshit that goes on behind the scenes, and I think a lot of devs get a lot of shit that they shouldn't.
I think developers are going to get to a point where they're going to, you know, just start creating super teams that are just like able to financially back themselves, you know, like I
mean, that's what they've been for the longest time, you know. I mean, a lot of these devs were either owned by a parent company or they were kind of like big singular parties that could float it themselves. I mean, Bethesda used to be that.
Teams. Yeah, we have seen super teams, you know, and we're seeing a lot more of them now. Like, oh, this game has somebody working from Call of Duty, God of War, or fucking Halo, and then fucking Doom, like all on one team.
Oh yeah,
like, Jesus Christ! All right, super team.
Well, I mean, that's like, Bethesda, Ubisoft, not so much
BioWare.
BioWare's done like 2 big franchises, but yeah, I get what you mean. I think we might see more of that.
We're seeing more of the. Yeah, I was gonna say. So now we see more of these developers like just like, look, we don't have to. We can just break off, do our own thing, and put some money together and like develop our own game and do it. Like, you know, we're starting to see a lot more, and that's why we're starting to see a lot more booming industries with the indie and AA industry, and you know, it's really really dope. So
I don't think we're seeing. Yeah, I think we are seeing more of the AA and like indie developers. But I think it's also like those games are just getting more attention with, you know, certain consoles that are releasing. You know, looking at your Steam Deck, you know, those games are just getting more pushed into the limelight than they were before. So
console too now. So I mean,
yeah.
It's not even just Steam Deck. It was before the Steam Deck.
Oh, I know. It was just like we're getting more. Those games are just getting more attention because they're becoming more mainstream nowadays. Because we see all the issues going on with AAA games.
Yeah.
And that just goes right back to how these devs are treated and the work conditions that they're in.
Absolutely. And then at the end of the day, like I feel like AAA game is just going to be on a corrective track at some point because if you don't treat your devs well, they leave your projects. Like Dying Light 2 had so many people that were major players just leave in the middle of the project, and that's why it got delayed so many times. It was supposed to come out in 2022. Like, it was supposed to come out back in 2020, you know, 2021. And it didn't come out till just last year, you know. So, I mean, when you see these stuff happening, eventually publishers are going to have to make a choice. Like, are you going to run your fucking people into the ground and make them quit, or are you going to just treat them better? Like,
Yeah, I do think that like a lot of these issues that we're seeing in the gaming sphere are exclusive to the AAA industry, just because indie games are usually a much smaller team, run by people who actually give a shit. But like back in like October of 2022, right? There's
issues. You know how many Kickstarter games fell apart?
Yeah.
It just never came
believe
out.
me, I know. Believe me, I know. But again, smaller teams, so it's, smaller teams, less financing. That's a whole other thing. But like just in October of last year, looking at an article right now, it was at 34% of game developers having to work overtime said they were not compensated for their extra hours, and game companies have been overworking employees for just years. So it's like, in every other job, if you work overtime, you get compensated for that overtime. Like you, for example, if you like hit your max, unless you're salaried. If you're salaried, that's another issue.
I'm sure most of these developers are salary based.
Fair, but a lot of these certain developers and certain people that are hired on the jobs, they're hired per game. They're not like, unless you work for that developer, unless you work for Bethesda or Ubisoft, or whatever, like they hire individual contractors for certain parts of certain games. Like they'll either hire writers or they'll hire voice actors, VFX artists, the whole shebang. A lot of those people are contract workers, and even if you are salaried, you're in your contract, you're still like, required to work a certain amount of hours, and some companies, even if you are salaried, they will put in stipulations for working overtime. So it's like,
I have no idea about that. Cannot confirm.
Yeah, no, I can't say that either. Like it goes company to company. Like my company does that, which I appreciate to death. Like if we put in like excessive overtime hours, then we can clock that in and get compensated for that, and that's great. Love you guys for that. But other jobs, they're like, nah, you're salaried, buddy. You work until the job's done, and that's just it. So it's like, to an extent, I think it's okay. Like certain overtime is to be expected in certain realms, but when it gets excessive, like, you're pulling like, 80-hour weeks, like that's just insanity.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's crazy because sometimes you'll put in those hours and not care about it as long as the job gets done. So then at the end of the day, sometimes it is a lot, but sometimes the team is willing to do it just to get the job done and make sure it's done properly.
No, I get that. I mean, some teams are good like that. Some teams don't mind. But I think the issue is when the developers force these workers to work ungodly hours and put in crazy overtime and do it for like, weeks on end. That's when it starts to get like, okay, maybe this should not be a thing.
No, and then some people are not seeing their families and everything.
Exactly. So that's where a union with forced standards would come into play and be like, okay, you guys have hit so many overtime hours this week. You are not allowed to force these workers to work more for the rest of the month or whatever. Like, a lot of those standards will have a set amount of allowed overtime that these people can do, right? Right. Or whatever their contract and standards and, regulations put into place. But that's where a union would come to play and be a really good benefit for these people.
I mean, yes, but I could play devil's advocate and say, like, what if you end up with a corrupt union?
That can happen too.
So then you just create another group of oppression over everybody that's going to come double down. So like that's the whole thing. Like I do think that it's better that we do have freelance because where's the money to fund these unions going to come from? So on top of developers and all these other people not making a lot of money, then they got to pay union dues on top of that.
Yeah, so then it's there just is like, that.
You do have to kind of think of it double ways. Like I think them being more freelance is a little bit better because at any point, it would suck that they would have to, kind of rough it for a while. But at any point, a developer can say, "Look, I'm taking my skills and I'm going elsewhere. I'm gonna join a team that has a better quality, that has better." And we've seen that happen. And lately with video games, you see all these people leaving these big projects, CEOs stepping down, senior managers of these big franchise games just leaving. Like, yo, it's time, and it's just like. You gotta sit there and think in the back of your mind, why is everybody fucking leaving all of a sudden, And they see the writing on the wall. They've been doing this for 30 years. So, like, things have definitely... The same things have been going on, but things have definitely changed over the last 50 years. How long? Yeah. Since gaming's inception. But it's just like... It's hard to really pinpoint where the root is because it's been in there for so long. It's been in there since the beginning, pretty much, And... It doesn't matter if you're talking producing consoles or producing the games themselves. Like, there's always going to be some kind of crunch. There's always going to be some team out there working more than what they should be. And it's just like, how do you nip all of it in the butt? There's always going to be some kind of, like, wiggle room. On top of, so you got unions maybe being corrupt. And you got to pay union dues just for it to not do what it needs to do. I know plenty of people that are in unions now. And it's just like, why am I in this if, like, you're just going to go run to the man at higher management. They're going to bitch you out. Or either they got people on the inside to make sure things go their way. Like, it all just becomes, the system's rigged at the end of the day. It just becomes, like, ridiculous.
It can be, yeah. No, I agree with you there. I get it. You have to be really careful when it comes to unionizing. For the most part, I think that, like, unions have typically been a good idea. I mean, you see the same thing going on with Starbucks workers right now, too. Like, there were a lot of people, or a lot of Starbucks regions trying to get it, like, unions created. Same thing with Amazon workers as well. Amazon's been really anti-union for a long time. Same with Starbucks. So, but, like, they know that they're not going to be able to work their workers as hard as they do now. Because these unions are going to put in some regulations to be like, hey, you can't do that. That's not okay. And if you do that, you got to pay them, okay? Like that. So it can go both ways. I think for the most part, unionizing is a good idea. I do like lately, from like all the gaming award shows and everything, they've been putting way more focus on writers, voice actors, everyone involved in the game, giving them their time to shine, be like, hey, this game was the best looking game, or this game had the best story. Shout out to those game writers for writing a badass story. Or this game had the best, voice acting. This was the best voice actor of this game for the year. That's awesome. I absolutely adore that so much. I think that's so great that they're finally getting more attention for the work that they're doing, instead of just like, hey, this is the best game, this is the best game in this category, blah, blah, blah. Like, each kind of niche is getting their attention, and that's great because I love that for them.
There's never always going to be recognition for everybody that's involved in the project, and it really sucks.
A lot of people are still just silent background worker bees, and like you still gotta give shout out to those people. Like, God,
my man Johnny Fling over here spent like 3 nights just trying to make sure that hair perfectly moved in the light to add that realism that you love on screen, and he's not getting recognized. Or that guy that made Ellie's pore look so clean that you feel like you could sniff it. Like, just like doing all that good shit, God. Those little tiny touches, so, no, I feel like we're eventually going to get on a corrective track. It might get worse before it gets better, but I think we're going to be on a corrective track to help things become more healthy and smooth, because once again, these marketing teams and these, publishing companies and these big companies, they want money, but they're not putting in the work to be pro-consumer or pro-developer or pro-anything to get that money. You know what I mean?
No, like, I 100% agree.
They're being counterproductive to their own needs and wants and desires. Like, you want this game to sell, make sure it's fucking good. Then the investors will get their money. Like, it's very simple.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That was a really, really sad thing. We said, hey, Let's end on the good. Let's end on the.
Well, hey, before we end, let me just leave you with this. Are you in favor or against unionizing in AAA gaming, or does it depend?
It really just depends. Okay. You got to give me a staff list. Like, who is going to be in this union? What's their game?
All right, so like let's do it this way, right? Would you want something similar to what Hollywood's doing, where like they have the writing guild and then they have the actors guild or actors union, and also throw in something for VFX and coders. So
I do feel like there should be some kind of protection in the gaming industry. It coming out as a union might not be the best fit. Maybe it's a more stable contract where like they're not allowed to work over these certain number of hours, but you can't fire them either for doing certain things or having certain things that can't be done. Like you can't just throw them in the trash pretty much, because we've seen publishers do that and it ends up bankrupting these developers, and bankrupting these places. They're just like, all right, fuck it, because the contract wasn't strong enough. So I think maybe better contracting and just trying to get everyone on the same page would probably be best. But honestly, it's really hard to say. I
agree with you with that. I think definitely having more like safety regulations and standards in place, I think is a good idea. Like you said, unionizing might get messy. We'll have to wait and see how the Ravensoft union works out and how that plays out. We're not going to see really the fallout from that or the benefit for a couple of years until they get their footing and get everything in place and really find out how they really want to run things, right?
Right.
So it's going to take a while, but there's 100% something that we're going to keep our eyes on. If there's any updates to this story, we will definitely let you guys know, because, I mean, we're in the gaming sphere. We're in this too. We want our developers to output good stuff. We want them to be happy, healthy, secure, and get paid for their work. So, yeah. But anyways, Jules, end us on a happy note.
Yo, Remnant 2, fire! Everybody get that game. It is so good. It is beautiful. It's amazing. It's everything that Remnant 1 was, plus more. It actually has a story. All you reviewers, y'all don't play games, clearly, because y'all didn't play the story y'all didn't get all that lore in the story from Remnant 1, and they made a prequel game. How you telling me it's not a story? Go.
We're probably gonna talk about this more in the proper post. Speaking of which, proper post, new podcast theme. It's going to be all of our post channel thoughts. So check that out on Spotify for like a deep dive into our messed up psyches. But ultimately, yes, I was not the biggest fan of the first Remnant. So far, I'm really liking the Remnant 2. It feels tighter, more responsive, feels more fun. I like the lore a little bit better in this one. The first one just felt a little bit loose for me. So definitely recommend it. Highly recommend go playing it.
All my boys got the game. Maybe if you guys want, we'll stream it for you guys.
We most likely will if we get a chance to like jump on together and do like a good hour or two of playtime. Sorry we haven't done anything with Diablo. Diablo kind of fell to the wayside. I still really want to play it.
And y'all
so
blame me for going against it. Y'all blame me for...
Bro, I mean, look,
that shit got review bombed, motherfucker.
It got review bombed for stupid reasons.
Because I knew they were going to fucking drop the ball. I knew they were going to drop the ball.
I don't think they dropped the ball. Okay, this is going to be another proper post. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit that like button, caress it, go all around it, then also hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Check us out also on Spotify, because we're there as well, doing video stuff as well, like we just talked about. Anywhere else, social media, we're on Threads. Not doing a whole lot, but we're on Threads. If that thing ever takes off, who actually knows anymore?
Yo, guys, also let us know if you want us to do a separate channel with just our heads showing as we talk. Call it Dome Head Gaming,
Just our bald heads from here up. Just like from here up. Oh, there's a reason I wear hats. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Jules, thanks so much for coming on as per usual. We love you guys. We adore you guys. Have a great weekend. Wherever you are, I hope it's not too boiling hot like it was today in Pennsylvania. But yeah, that was fun. Stay cool, guys. Have a great weekend. Be safe. We love you guys. Stay excellent. Peace out.